Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be going through all of Kevin Smith's films. Also, there's a viewer request for this one. So today we are starting off with the 1994 film Clerks. Here is your trivia question for today. Silent Bob's cousin Olaf sings what original song? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So our film starts off at the Quick Stop Groceries and RST video store. We meet our main characters, Dante Hicks, who happens to be working at the grocery store, and as he will constantly say throughout the film, he's not even supposed to be there today. And then, of course, there's Randall Graves, who is working at the video store and seems perfectly happy to just coast through life. So the entire story takes place over one day and night at these two stores with these two coworkers. It's a story that's all about friendship, dead-end jobs, complicated romance, stoners, and of course, oddball customers. So by the end of it, will Dante ever figure out who he truly wants to be with? And in general, will the boys ever do anything to change their lives? This movie was written, directed, edited, and produced by Kevin Smith. This was also his first feature film doing all of these aspects. This movie was filmed and takes place in New Jersey. To produce this film, Kevin Smith actually sold a large portion of his comic book collection. Also, he borrowed about $3,000 from his parents and maxed out all his credit cards. Two potential titles that Kevin Smith almost used before settling on Clerks was Inconvenience and Rude Clerks. Also, something interesting when it comes to the logo for Clerks, it was actually made out of letters cut from different magazines and products found in the store. The C was from Cosmopolitan magazine, the L was from Life magazine, the E was from Rolling Stone magazine, the R was from Ruffles, the K was from Clark Bar, and the S was from Goobers. Clerks was the first film in what is now known as the View Askewniverse, which is named after View Askew, which is Kevin Smith's production company. And since this question comes up from time to time, no, my company, Askewed Reviews, is not connected to it, and I didn't actually name it after it. What's funny is I just wanted to think of a word that rhymed with reviews, and askewed is what came to mind, and so I realized only afterwards that there was that connection. Smith originally wrote Clerks as a comedic horror film where there was a clerk working the graveyard shift and running into bizarre patrons. Smith was inspired by a few different things when it came to creating Clerks, one of which was the 1990 film Slacker. Another inspiration was real life, as Smith was actually working at the time at that Quick Stop Groceries. He would work from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then shoot till 4 a.m. at the grocery store, and it was shot over 21 nights. Now, Smith did get permission to film in the grocery store, but he couldn't do it during the day. This is why they came up with the excuse that there was gum in the shutters, so that way they could always keep them closed and it wouldn't always look like night. The last inspiration was the Divine Comedy. This is the reason why there are 9 segments throughout the film to represent the 9 hells, and why the main character is named Dante. Now, the character of Dante Hicks is based off of Smith himself, and the character of Randall is based off of his best friend, Brian Johnson, who you might know better from the television series produced by Kevin Smith, Comic Book Men. Now, in my mind, I can't imagine anyone else playing the character of Dante other than Brian O'Halloran, but the role was originally going to go to Ernest O'Donnell. Now, the reason that he isn't Dante in the film is that he wouldn't learn his lines, and Smith never felt quite right about the casting, so instead he moved him over to the character of Rick Darris. Smith, by the way, was originally going to play the character of Randall, but he soon realized doing writing, directing, and everything else, along with playing one of the main characters, was going to be too stressful, but he still did want to be in the film, so he created the character of Silent Bob. Silent Bob started off having absolutely no dialogue in the film. The only reason that he ended up getting that one line is because Jason Mewes was so drunk that he had trouble delivering it, so Smith did it instead. The character of Jay is based off of Jason Mewes, as he was a friend of Kevin Smith's. Now, Silent Bob is actually loosely based off of Smith's late father, who rarely spoke unless he had something witty to say. Jeff Anderson, who plays the character of Randall, originally auditioned for the character of Jay. Here's something funny about Anderson. He actually refused to say all of those porno names in front of that little girl and mother unless they weren't in the same room. But to actually get the reaction from the mother, they had to replay that audio for the woman and child, so they had to hear it anyway. Scott Mosier, who was a producer for the film, played some of the characters throughout it. Most notably, Mosier played the character of Willem, also known as Snowball. Then he played that angry guy who got up on the roof and hit the ball off of it. And lastly, he was one of the angry mourners at the funeral. The character known as the Milkmaid was played by Kevin Smith's mother, Grace Smith. The actor that had the most roles in the film was one of Kevin Smith's oldest friends, Walter Flanagan. Flanagan, by the way, also appears on Comic Book Men. He played the guidance counselor who was obsessed with eggs, the offended customer, the customer that got angry about cigarettes and then ended up buying them anyway, and the customer who was admiring the cat that Randall told him was named Annoying Customer. Speaking of that cat, its name isn't Annoying Customer, but is actually Lenin's tomb. They purposely tried to do what they could to make sure that the cat didn't go to the bathroom for a while, so that when they would do this scene, the cat would go in the litter box on cue. There is an alternate ending that was filmed but never used in the movie, where Dante is at the end of his shift, but then he is shot and killed by a robber. Smith loves the fan theory that the movie was shot in black and white to mimic a security camera, when, in actuality, it was just due to the budget. Randall's whole moment about Salsa Shark is actually a reference to the movie Jaws. Even some of the lines that he says are from the film but just altered slightly. In case you were curious, the smoker's lung that the Chulies rep slaps down onto the counter was actually a calf's liver thrown in the dirt and burnt with cigarettes. The word fuck is said 91 times throughout the film. Oh, and speaking of numbers, 37 is Kevin Smith's favorite number. This is why that's how many men Veronica has performed oral sex on. At one point in the film, Dante mentions to Randall that he thinks that it's strange that all pricing ends in 95 or 99. Now, in case you at home are curious, the reason for this is that cashiers would have to open the register to give change back, thus record a sale and preventing them from pocketing the bills. In 2014, there was an indie biopic called Shooting Clerks that is based off of the making of this film. There is also a short lived animated series based off of Clerks, multiple comic books. There was even a potential live action television series that fell through, but had it happen, it would have been Andrew Lowry as Dante and Jim Brewer as Randall. But since Kevin Smith owned the rights to Jay and Silent Bob, they had been talking about adding in a character named Ray. So when it comes to the film Clerks, I really enjoy this one. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that in my own experience, I've worked at video stores, gas stations, and other retailers. So it's something that I can relate to, and I've definitely seen my share of very interesting customers. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. And if you also enjoyed the movie Clerks, other movies I recommend checking out are Office Space, Waiting, High Fidelity, and Reality Bites. And now, time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. Silent Bob's cousin Olaf sings what original song? Olaf happens to be part of a metal band, and apparently one of their most popular songs is called Berserker. Random fact, by the way, one of the first cats I ever had I named Berserker, and I named it that because of this film. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.